Now we're in the meat and potatoes.
We are. So now what we want to talk about is there are actually several different ways to create items in P21. And
not all created equal.
And they are definitely not all created equal. But there are a bunch of different ways. So we want to go over that and just kind of talk through. Here are different ways to get things done in P21. And maybe some of these you know about and some of them you don't. Matt, you want to just start us off?
Yeah, I mean, let's just go through the most manual process of creating an item is item maintenance, which to me allows you to it gives you the most control over your creating of your item, whether it's setting certain fields required, putting business rules in place. Creating them in the front end allows so much more herding of people, but it is also time consuming.
Was that herding as in like
herding
sheep
cats.
herding, or
Cats.
hurting as in making it painful?
Both. So when you enter an item ID that does not exist, it's going to pop up a search window because it's trying to figure out.
Can't help it.
I'm
putting a dash in this just to be cheeky.
Also, if you guys notice, he's typing an underscore first. That's how you know somebody's a program guy or works in data.
Or is holding the shift key down.
Yeah, or holding the shift key.
That's all it was. It was not.
Okay.
I was not making a political statement. I was just accidentally holding down the shift key.
So this is one of those weird things, and I don't know what you can do about it, but it won't come up with anything.
I think I do. I actually think I have the solution to this.
Okay.
All right. So the problem we have right now is that the add new button is not coming up on screen.
Right.
So I think the way that you defeat that monster, although nothing happens in a vacuum, you are giving something up, is over here in user maintenance. Where is that? If we turn off defaulting to advanced search, have you tried turning it off and back on again?
The reason he's so normally he would have to go do the drop down to, I think it's item.
Yeah, it's your related pop-ups, so you have to select just the normal item.
Why they did that, I don't know.
Yeah, it should be there on both. I mean,
yeah, it really should. Or even ask me. Well, no, I wouldn't want it to pop up every time. That would probably be bad.
All right, I didn't hold the shift key down that time. See, now you get it. So here's the trade-off. Advanced search may be a really good fit for you because you want the more fields. But if you're creating a lot of items manually, the trade-off is you're going to have to... Advanced search, which I don't know why they don't call it item advanced. That would make sense, but it's actually item extended.
Yeah.
That's what you're defaulting to when you have advanced search turned on your user account by default. So you have to go to the normal item search, which is this, and you would get the add new button there.
Yeah, I would probably still just deal with the drop down if that was my two choices, because I would want the default. Unless my main job is to sit here and plug items in. Because even looking up items, you could potentially... Because it limits what you're inline searching then at that point, too.
It does, and that's the trade-off.
Yeah,
and
that would be an issue for me.
It is for me, and I don't like it, which is why all my user accounts are always set to default to advanced search. But at least now we've communicated this is what drives that.
So here's the interesting part about those defaults on item default maintenance, which are location specific.
They don't work here.
They don't work here because you have to set a default at the top, which is not a location specific. And when you add a location, it's going to pull it from those, not from item defaults.
These live streams would go a lot faster if you would stop trying to inject logic into the process.
All right, sorry. All right. Now, track lots is checked because our item defaults are set to...
It makes sense if you don't think about it.
All right. Do me a favor, put a short code and put an extended description, because we're going to use this item for the next one, which is copy to a new item, and I want to show you just to call out some of the things to think about when you do that. So just put anything in the extended description. It'll all make sense later.
Okay, got it.
My biggest piece of advice is, now there are certain things you'll have to do before you can go down to the bottom, but you should do everything you can at the top before you go to the bottom, especially the supplier stuff.
Yeah, that really lowers the pain threshold if you do all that at the top first.
Right,
yes.
Because if there's, and this is assuming there's only one supplier. If there's only one supplier or a main supplier, do that one first.
Yep, then come back and add your other ones.
Right, because when we have a supplier on there and we create it, it will make it the default supplier for every location that we add. So
it will do all the work for you. So, yeah.
Unit info, I believe, is required before you move on.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is not a good time to talk about base UOMs because we already made that a different subject. So I'll shut up and we'll keep moving on.
Yep. All these boxes have to be checked on something.
Do we want to set multiples up on this one, or you just want to?
No, I think we'll dive into that more when we're talking about just unit of measures.
Got it.
It deserves that. Alternate codes, I think we'll talk about more. They're what they sound like. They're alternate codes.
Yeah.
If you decide to make a naming change on your item codes, it allows you to use the old one in there just for muscle memory.
Yeah.
For lack of better or anything else.
Merges and item ID changes can also do this by default if you so choose, where you're still retaining the ability to enter some other item ID and it brings this correct one up.
Conversion, I think we talked about I think it's one of our topics we're going to cover.
For purchasing, yeah.
For purchase, it's a whole beast and not really used a lot. Default pricing, if you are using price 1 through whatever, if it's the same price at every location, cool, set these up here, and every location you add will pull those pricings down.
I just want to throw this in. For those of you using multi-currency, when you have locations in multiple countries, price 1 through 10 at the location level is based on the home currency of that location. So just keep that in mind. All right. Supplier list. Not supplier list price. It literally just means list of suppliers.
Right.
Black & Decker, since you said that. I don't think they actually make Palmolive, though.
Nothing else really to do on here. If you do ever want to delete a supplier, I believe it cannot be set as a primary, and there can't be any open POs for that item.
Yeah, there may be some other validations in there, but
there's some other validations, but
yeah, those are the big ones.
Yep. Supplier detail. Now, if you're on your supplier list, whichever supplier you were on when you then click on supplier detail,
that's the one that comes up. Yeah.
That's the one you're coming up.
Yep. You can scroll down a little bit and just navigate back and forth. Okay. Next.
I mean, if you have your supplier item IDs, put them in there.
Yeah. And that becomes important, especially, I mean, it's important for a lot of reasons. Number one, it allows you to enter POs using the supplier part number, which I like. Or actually even potentially sales orders. Another thing is, and this to me is the biggest one, it allows you to transmit the supplier's part number to them on the PO, which, again, reduces opportunities for error because you're speaking to them in their own language.
I'll do you one better than that. It's when they send you a price sheet, and it's their item IDs, not yours.
Yep.
You can use pricing service or what other form you want to use to
update based on supplier part number. Yeah, that's huge.
But be careful. It is not a unique ID field. If you, not speaking from personal experience at all, if you happen to have 200 item IDs that have all the same supplier part number for some reason, that does cause an issue.
That would be horrible. How would you even unravel that?
A lot of work.
200 times.
A lot of work.
All right, catalog name and catalog page. I am starting to run into customers that are using this. It's my background really doesn't lend itself to using this, so I don't have a lot of frame of reference for it, but we do see it used.
Yeah, I do. I've had a couple people like just cross my path talking about it. I do feel like it's one of those areas that I would like to learn a little bit more about it. List price, cost. Cost is very important. List price you may or may not be using, but you should put it in there even if you're not.
If there is a supplier list price for that item, I think it's good to have it in there. The biggest thing is right here. These numbers are always in terms of this unit of measure and unit size,
which will come into play when we cover all unit of measure information. Stay tuned.
Absolutely.
The cost part, and we've done this on another live stream talking about cost, but how, depending on how you set your suppliers up for costing, even if you're setting them up at location costs, you still should put a cost in this field because it becomes your backup if you don't have a cost at a location.
Yeah, and Matt always does a good job of making this point. I'm just going to beat him to it for once because it'll make me sound smart. But if you've got 10 locations and 9 of them have the same list price or same cost, just fill this in and then just change the one location one that's different.
Yeah, the way they do it's not clear, like they don't spell it out. It's a hierarchy, right? It looks in this spot, oh, that's a 0, and then it goes and looks in this spot.
Yep.
So, and again, for me, if you have the information, why wouldn't you put it in? Like
Absolutely.
for this type of stuff.
Especially if you can upload it, you know?
Right, yeah. UPC code, keep in mind you do not enter in the last
the check
12th
digit. Yeah.
The check digit. P21 will do the math for you.
Yeah, this is the 11 or 14 character UPC code. That is validated when you try to put it in. You can only do 11 or 14 characters.
If for some reason they're using their own barcode numbering system, you can always put that in as an alternate code as well.
Yeah.
Which Wireless Warehouse will...
It has barcode learning, so it can actually kind of make those associations.
And it'll tell you, hey, this isn't a UPC. Do you want to make it an alternate code?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think we did a stream of that a couple of weeks ago.
We did. That's actually how I know about it. I had never touched barcode learning until we did that stream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No joke.
EN code.
I think that's another derivative of barcoding. SDS, I believe, is the safety data sheet.
Yep.
Contract number. This does show up on the PO. So if you are buying on supplier contracts and stuff, this is good to put on there. This field I also know is transmitted through EDI. So if a supplier's pricing has dependencies on certain contracts or whatever, this is a good way to do it. This is also just something to think about. Vendor is who you pay. Supplier is who you buy from, right?
Who supplies you?
Weird. They should call it something like that. We have seen very successful strategies of saying we have the same swath of items that we can buy from the supplier on a different contract at a lower price. So we set up another supplier just for that contract, add those items, and have that contract number populated so that when that PO gets transmitted, it comes through with that contract number and the pricing is accepted. I'm not saying it's the most beautiful, efficient way to do it, but it works. We have item notes for each contract. Wow, that field wasn't in the... This will... I think Soyo is so excited she fell on the floor.
Which field is that?
I'm thinking contract field, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well,
I'm just gonna heart the comment and hope that was the right thing to do. Oh no, I'm not. Wow. I just lost my chat. It wants me to sign in.
Well, that's not good.
No.
It's not. It was It's not in the application.
Back. Okay, I got it back. The contract helped tremendously. Yes. Oh, cool. We just moved into the cloud 2 weeks ago. Yeah. No. Hey, we feel you. That's a bad day.
That's a different soapbox.
Yeah.
Certificate of origin. Obviously, if you're dealing with things that you need that
Our
pertinent information.
Yeah. Yep. That's there, and when it expires, and what the country of origin is. That stuff is all available.
Substitutes. I think we're gonna do.
Yeah, we had this, and I definitely want to get into this because again, very underutilized feature.
Substitutes and accessory items are kind of the same idea, as far as helping your sales guys out. With
this
upselling or
cross-selling or just taking care of the customer. Really,
right.
It's just taking care of the customer.
Lot, we are definitely going to be doing a full stream.
That is its own thing for sure.
Lots, cereals, and all that stuff. All right, another pet peeve of mine: catch weight. Do not check that box. You'll get nothing but bad information in there. Basically, the point of the catch weight is, and I'm trying to remember where it triggers it, but there's somewhere it will. I think it might be at receiving, where if you don't have your net weight,
there's like tries to force you to put it in or something.
It says put it in. So what will people do? They will just
one.
Right. So it doesn't know that 1 is not the right answer. So just when you set your items up, put them. And honestly, if you can do the length, width, and height, especially if you're, and maybe you want to make those based off of cases, or because that can come into play when you're talking about filling out a truck or shipment or hitting vendor goals.
You know what would make catch weight work really well? If you could find a developer that could integrate a network-based scale with P21.
You know, I think I know somebody that has integrated a scale into some pretty hefty programs.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, that's good to know if that ever comes up.
Minimum, put your whatever you're tracking your weight usage, which I love that there's a company-wide setting for that, but you can change it at the item level. I don't know why you would one particular item. Classes, we kind of talked about a little bit.
Yep.
One of my favorite things for using them for is, again, almost every report in P21 allows you to use classes as a criteria. We used them as like, we would have class 1 would be like a much larger group of items
like
part
that.
of the industry.
Yeah. Yep.
And then class 2 maybe would break it down into even
each
like
class gets a little more granular. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And you know, your mileage may vary. Now, we've talked about the before. Class 5 used to be meant for
B2B seller. Now it's got its own thing now, or at least ECC has its own thing. But historically, people that were on B2B seller would have to reserve class 5 to identify something as a web item. There's a lot of legacy with that. I think the people that are affected by that are in a group, and that group gets a little smaller by the day.
And some people may use them to, like, we had people that, hey, if any item has this in class 3, we want X, Y, and Z to happen to it when we enter. So links, I don't even know what links are. What are links again?
Okay, so this is kind of a precursor to document links, but you can put like image links and stuff like that in here. I've seen it used a little bit, not a lot. Most people are just using document links now, but I mean, there's still some.
Now, you know, talking about stuff like ribbon metrics and stuff like that in displaying an image, would you have to store it here, or can you set that up? You know, like, you know, the little things at the top.
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I've never really experimented with those much. I was just curious. What's under the 3 dots? And you'll notice by default, as you go, they typically become less, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not everybody's going to be using all of these things.
Right.
Restore to defaults, document links, that's pretty self-explanatory. Atom catalogs we'll talk about. Well, it's the whole catalog thing. Keywords.
Keywords.
It's a big repository dump of just like, is it meant keywords like on internet browsing keywords or?
All right, so I'm trying to just be nice right now. It's hard for me, but no, I think keywords to me, like the best use case I have for this would be, I think it's valuable if you want to load this with things that you want to push to your e-commerce site. I know it has applications below that. I don't need a bunch of torches and pitchforks and stuff showing up at my door. But it is a big field. It's just I don't think it's particularly performant from a search perspective. But I do like it for like if if you're using it to just establish taxonomies and things like that, I think that's fine. But I usually just see it being the dumping ground for we didn't know what to do with this data conversion, so we're going to drop it in keywords, and then it's useless.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's where I'm at with it.
What else we got? Yeah.
Yes.
General tip: if you never use any of these fields, just right-click and close them.
Yeah. So, like, if you don't use links, close the tab.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if you use them all the time, right-click and pin the tab.
Yeah.
So that is sticky. All right. Package types. Oh, we figured out where this gets used, and I don't remember where it was. Might have been in scan and pack or something.
Yeah.
And then problem codes. All I know about problem codes is we had somebody that wanted us to develop a solution around it, and we ended up talking them out of it.
I don't know why you would need a specific problem code.
I would hate to have to try to manage it at the...
Yeah.
I don't know.
That seems like a very specific somebody requested.
Yeah. Item restrictions, now that does have some use. Like if you're into products that, for instance, can only be sold to people that are licensed, can only be sold in certain geographies, whatever that is. There's a whole feature around item restrictions. Maybe we put that on the list someday. I don't know. But that is a feature unto itself.
That would be one of those ones that I would learn something because
I messed with them once for acupuncture needles. Yeah. You know how much regulation there is around acupuncture needles? It's pretty horrifying. Anyway, sorry. Little yeah. And then supplier unit info. Okay, this allows you to create. What do I want to say here, Matt? It allows you to create associations between your UOM and a supplier's UOM.
Right.
We say EA, they say EACH. We say case, they say carton. Whatever. That's what this is.
But it prevents you from having to create a bunch of arbitrary unit of measures.
No one does that. What are you talking about? That never happens.
Nobody does that. Nobody does case 12, 6, 8, 14 and a half.
9.
Niner.
We're on a roll today.
Yeah, we are.
All right. Moving on.
All right. So
getting out of control. We didn't talk about product type. Let me just mention that right quick. For product type, you have lot group, which I think that is a lot billing feature. You have regular,
but it is not lot item related.
Right? No, this is a feature called lot bill.
Right.
So,
right. Which is very not big, not used a lot.
No, it's not. Service contract items, subtotal items, that gets into, you can create an item that says subtotal everything up to the next subtotal. That's actually not a horrible feature if you play with it some. And then temporary items, and the difference between a temporary item and a regular item is really nothing.
It's just a way to group them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that.
Scroll down on the top for me, and do not click on that because last time you did and didn't let me show something.
I'm not clicking on anything. Closing these.
Hazardous material, that's tied to that SDS. I think I don't know if you're somebody that deals with a lot of hazardous stuff and you have questions about STS,
So
maybe.
I've done it once. I've
Yeah.
I've done hazmat stuff one time, and it got into the concept of setting up hazmat for for that Prop 65 thing in California, and using that to determine whether or not something would get a Prop 65 warning.
Yeah, and you theoretically can set it up so it uses, like if you have an SDS that you always need to send when you're sending this type of product, it can print or email. Again, I think it's too narrow of a topic to probably for us to cover on a stream, because I mean, I haven't talked to one person I work with here that uses hazardous material. So, but reach out to us if you do. All right, now we want to add things to locations. So instead of typing a location in, we're going to double click into the location ID. And the reason I want to do that is because this allows you to go ahead and grab whichever locations you want to add. So that way you don't have to type in 10, then type in 20. You can pick all the ones you want to add and click OK. You can also right click and deselect all or select all, whatever you want to do.
Oh, you can actually add another company to it.
Oh, you know what? Do we have multiple companies in this system?
I don't remember.
That is interesting. Okay, well, while you're doing that,
No, we do not.
okay, so items are one of the only few things in P21 that does not require you to create a unique record for each company.
Right. They are, yes, it is a shared item master for sure.
Customers, suppliers, users.
And we have had situations where a company deploys with multiple companies. So each business unit is their own company, and they all sell similar items. They're all coming from different systems, and we have to get them to all agree on what the part numbers are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up and decided to try to get everybody to order pizza instead. That worked out a lot better. Wow. I'm still in shell shock.
Now you'll notice stockable is not pre-checked.
It's a choice.
For a reason.
It's not a default.
Not a default. Interesting enough, sellable is not one of those flags that you can mark as a item default in default maintenance. By default, it makes everything sellable. Now, why would you want something not sellable? Maybe you're buying this for manufacturing shop, or maybe you're whatever. Maybe
it's
you're
a component.
It's
an internal use item. It's something that, like, hey, we buy tons and tons of raw steel, but we don't sell raw steel. We sell the stuff that we make out of it.
The issue is, we used it once when it was like, hey, I want to make sure we're not putting this on sales rolls right now. We have an issue that we need to figure out. And it was a quick and dirty way to make it not sellable.
It's effective.
Right. But anyways.
Okay. And then make that, whether or not you can make it. Requisition. Can it be put on a requisition PO? Discontinued. There are options of how you can deal with this in system settings, but let's just say in general terms, discontinued means you can sell what you have. You cannot buy more of it. Now there are options that will allow you to put it on a director special, but not bring it back into inventory. So I like the feature. People hate on it a lot. I'm not really sure why, but I kind of like it. I think it's got merit for what it's used for, but
I've only run into it as an issue. There were certain things that it wouldn't allow you to do that didn't make sense. Like, I don't know if it was bin movements or there was something that it wouldn't allow us to use it. It might have been as a component. There was something strange.
I can see that
we couldn't use the discontinued, so we had to.
But I could see it not allowing you to add it to an assembly.
Yeah.
That maybe I've never tested that. But that's possible.
Anyways.
Okay. Location detail.
Did you put that product group in there? Oh no, it pulled it from defaults.
Yes, it pulled it from item default mappings.
Hate that. Hate that.
You had a whole Minecraft creeper thing going there for a second.
Sorry. I don't think really we kind of talked about all those already. Price family again. If we had a default price family set up, it would pop. One thing I would say is there are certain fields that no matter what you do, they're required. You don't have a choice. There are a lot of fields that are not required, but if they're required for your business, make them required using Dynachange. We made default price family required for us because it was critical to the way we were doing our pricing. So anyways, track bin we talked about.
I want to cover default and order entry. A lot of people don't know what that means. If you check that checkbox, that item will appear on every sales order ever.
But it doesn't show up with a quantity. So if you save, it'll fall off the order.
Awesome.
FYI.
It still shows up on every order.
Now, ever. I will say we kind of skipped over one thing top, and it kind of plays into this. We use it here sometimes for fees or things we're adding to orders as an other charge item, where we will always have it add to an order, and if that order doesn't qualify for a fee, when they save, it just falls off.
That sounds like somebody could use that for a surcharge thing, and it would be.
I just said that.
Pretty straightforward.
I just said that.
I know. I'm feeling a little shell shocked right now about something. So
now, if you did, you can set its own pricing and stuff like that. But like I said, the problem is it doesn't put a quantity on it. I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't. Or maybe you know what? We might have modified that for the rule. I don't remember.
Or you could just set it with the default 0 price. I don't know. I mean, but like, okay, but here's a good use case for it. Okay, like if.
Catalog.
Yeah, I was going to use Uline as an example, and by the way, if anyone from Uline ever watches this video, please stop sending me catalogs. If I need your stuff, I'll buy it from the website. You're losing money because I don't buy enough stuff to justify having a catalog sent to me every 2 months. I'm just putting it out there. Okay. I'm sorry. That just drives me nuts. Anyway, tax. Really... same thing. This is the tax group thing that we were talking about earlier. You see your prices. They got filled in 1, 2, 3 because that's what we set up top.
Okay, so those settings that you do control here.
Yeah.
They do make. But if you go set up a contract, I can still use those prices.
Didn't we play with this one time and do like this? And it worked? No, it didn't work. Okay.
No, it's contracts that it works on.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to be sure.
Even though you can't put anything in there.
It did not work. Okay. Also, all of these prices are in terms of your default sales unit. And it tells you that. So just be mindful that that's what that means. That's how that works. All right. Cost.
If you are using a standard cost, this is where you would put it. Last PO cost gets updated every time you
receive a PO. Yeah.
I think
it works a couple of different ways. You've got one that updates on the last time you receive a PO. You've also got another one that shows what the cost of the next PO that's due in is. So that's actually a good one. But yeah. All right. Then usage. This is important for advanced forecasting. So, and up to stuff like that. It doesn't really matter for, it's disabled if the item's not stockable.
Right.
Which is a choice, not a default. That's what I've heard.
It is definitely a choice. Replenishment, I don't really want to spend too much time on that just because we have talked about purchasing at nauseum. There is a required field in there though, which is the replenishment location has to be filled out.
Yep.
Again, it's one of the item defaults I'm okay with because 9 times out of 10, most people's replenishment location is the same location that they're setting up. So I have no issues. So you have my permission to use that in item defaults.
Oh, well, that's all I've ever wanted out of life.
All that other stuff is all to do with purchasing and replenishment, obviously, because it's called replenishment. We talk about that ad nauseum in other videos.
GL accounts, this is if you're going to override this, but this will get filled in based on your product groups, I believe. But your product group, in product group maintenance, you will control what account gets used. Supplier by location. So this is what Matt was talking about earlier of doing all the work at the top of the screen kind of helps you at the bottom of the screen. All of this stuff got automatically filled in. We didn't have to do anything. So
yeah, every location has to have a primary supplier set up. You can have as many locations as you or as many suppliers are up top can all be assigned to each location down at the bottom. They don't have to be, but at least one of them has to be a primary.
Yep.
And each location can also have its own contract number, it just like it does in the supplier detail. It's one of the fields on there.
Right there. Yeah, and that is like just again for newer P21 folks. Every item location must have a primary supplier, and an item location may only have one primary supplier. So you must have one and only one, basically.
But you can still purchase the items from these other suppliers and still set up their, it'll still pull from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suppliers. Technically in P21, it'll allow you to buy anything from anybody. It'll just tell you, hey, this item's not, which I never understood that.
Well, there's no other way we're getting Palmolive soap from Black & Decker anyway, so.
Right. Yeah. Well, it is because we set it up.
That's right.
Don't really need to go through all this other stuff. Processing's very specific if you're...
It is, and I definitely want to put a pin in that for the future. I think this is a feature, if people understood it better, it could help them out.
Yeah. It's not processes as in production processing.
No,
right?
This is a special type of... This is like a key way to deal with suppliers that keep stepping on landmines. It really is. If you're having QC problems, this is a great way to manage it. And then VMI, I've actually never fooled with this. I'm assuming it's hyper specific for if... I think this is if you have a VMI with your supplier.
Yeah.
So I've not ever really had to mess with it. All right, so let's save some soap.